Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly MMA Cycles Market Update. This is Gianni DePocia, your host, and I'm joined this week by the one and only currency expert at MMA. It's Ulric Aspegrén. Ulric, how are you today?
Excellent, Johnny. Thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for joining me. So obviously, we
Glad
want
to
to
be
spend some time talking about currencies and specifically the euro. That is your specialty. But before we do that, I do want to run through a couple other markets. Let's start off with the Dow Jones. Been a really nasty week for stocks and other markets aside from crude oil. Not a lot of geocosmic activity this week aside from Venus square Uranus on Friday. So what's your take on stocks? Are we seeing some longer term cycles unfolding and any geocosmics on your horizon right now?
Yeah, if you look at the market cycles, the primary cycles have gone bearish on all three of all the main markets. And so it is a bit scary because that is the signal that they will, the lowest price will be at the end of this cycle. And so we're looking for another 3 months of declining prices, in my view. It could go to the year end.
Yeah, it's looking pretty bearish. I really don't like how we took out this low here from the 25th of August in the Dow, but we have Venus square Uranus, so perhaps we get a short-term bounce, and then not a lot of geocosmic activity until the middle of October. So yeah, I do share that position with you, Ulrich. I do think we're on the defensive. Let's go ahead and take a look at crude oil real quick.
I just want to say that it is, there is a intermediate term cycle that is due, and
Oh yeah.
within the 3 months time. So it is, in my view, it has peaked, and now we're coming down, and it's going to be a bit scary. Most people think, doomsday, but a bit light in the tunnel as we
Yes.
can see with the Jupiter-Uranus coming up in April next year.
Well, absolutely. We definitely are not doom and gloom here. Let's look at crude oil. This is only from yesterday's close, but we are ripping to new highs here. So it's looking pretty bullish on this front, Ulrich. What's your take on the energy market?
Well, there's a lot of resistance around $95 right now and falling. And I think that my preferred outlook is that it will be the peak in oil for some time, and that we're going to come down to a long-term low from there on. Probably because with the stock market, everything starts to retract, and yeah, it will be more, inflation versus deflation. And I think at that point, during the next 3 months, it will be more looking, downwards.
Okay, very nice. We're gonna look at gold with GLD. Gold really struggling here today, not liking the higher interest rates. But as we've been talking about, Ulrich, we are coming up into Mars and Scorpio season. Mars is going to go into Scorpio on the 12th of October, and we're looking for a low to be complete here. So
Yep.
is that your outlook as well, or do you think gold's going to fall even more?
No, no, there could be some money to be made here short term with this Mars entering into Scorpio. We are 13, I think the 13th week in gold, and we are coming down for a primary cycle low. And after that, we could get a very nice rally. That's the short-term view, yes.
Okay, very good. So are you ready to talk about the euro?
Yes, always ready.
Okay, so look at the euro here, cracking and now testing its lows for the year. We're only a few cents away from par. So what's your take on the euro, Ulrich? The floor is yours. What do you think is the outlook for this currency?
Yeah, if you look at it where it started, where let's say the primary cycle started right there, we've had a couple of rallies. The best one, I mean, after it started to decline, after the top was in, it was on August 25th there, if you can show it.
Oh, the August 25th low? Yeah, right here. Yeah.
So it rallies price-wise quite interestingly, but time-wise, it was too short to actually be historically, from my studies, to be a major cycle crest. Therefore, I'm more inclined that this primary cycle is dividing into two half primary cycle, two 16 weeks have primary cycles, and we're coming down now to make that low at the latest by October 20th. And I have a price range. It's a bit wide, but that's what it is, 0.9924 to 1.0720. So we're in the price range. We're in the time band. And now it's just a matter of, looking for critical reversal dates, and also looking at the stochastical divergence.
Yeah.
That's I'm trading myself the euro, so I'm sitting and looking to go long. Now, as the my view is that we're coming down to a 15-month cycle low. That means that this rally that's coming now out of this half primary cycle low should be a bearish rally, meaning that the top should be in by 2 to 8 weeks. And I have some 2.5 to 6% rise. That's what I'm looking at. And from there on, then we're like going down. That will be the half primary cycle crest. Then we're going down to the primary cycle low, and that should coincide as well with the 15-month cycle low. So that's the short-term outlook for the euro. Now, what's interesting, if you look at it, the low, the 15-month cycle low is due then when this primary cycle is unfolding, which will be November 24 to March 10, the narrowed down time band for this intermediate term cycle low. And the intermediate term cycle low could go on to May 6th, actually, But anyhow, we made this top. If you can look, the top of July 18. We made it just at the beginning of a Jupiter-Neptune semi-square. And that is usually could be like, you top out in an explosive manner, and then you come down like a pancake. And I think that's what we're looking at here. We're sliding down very quickly. And this top, July 18th, was only 4 days away from where the first meeting of this aspect happened on July 22nd. So I think that's what we're looking at, that we are coming down. And the next aspect that it goes on to year end, and actually all the way to March 4. But I think we're going to, when we make that low at the latest by March 10, this other aspects, which is a fantastic aspect, is Jupiter conjunction Uranus in Taurus. And at the end, I would like to say some funny things about it, because it's about food and inventions and so on. But
okay.
Yeah, but the that's a very optimistic view, and it could be a major shift in people's attitude and thinking that, very constructive. And we could then see that we make that 15-month cycle low sometimes, I would say, rather earlier than later, maybe in December, because we need some time then to rally up to this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which is in April, I think it's April 20th of next year.
Yeah.
And so that energy, we could then see the top after, 2 to 4 months. It's actually 2 to 6 months that the rally should be in, but that will be my preferred outlook. And from there, the next months after, in May, then the energy shifts very radically. We get a very hard energy with Saturn semi-square Pluto, which is all in there for the rest of the year and on. And also later on, you have Saturn squaring, for the Jupiter squaring Saturn. It's a semi-square. No, semi-square. No, it's a square. Sorry,
square. Yeah.
Square. And that happens August 19th, 2024. So those two Saturn Pluto and Saturn Jupiter Saturn, it's a reality check, and this expansion Jupiter could come to a halt, because you need to kind of adjust. You need to re-see what do we need to change for the next phase.
Yeah.
And therefore, I would think that, the euro come from there on, we top in April. Again, it will be a 15-month cycle crest. And from there on, we're heading down for, the remaining of the year towards actually a 8-year low. It will be the third 32 months cycle, and 8-year low is it's the second biggest cycle in the euro. It could be a hard decline.
So
And
how low do you think the euro could fall? I mean, I think we could fall to 85 cents in the dollar.
well, I think it could even go lower. I mean, the 8-year 85 is pretty good in a way because it's not the complete, but I have 0.7 something. I mean, if it really the 8-year low, some of them, historically have been very hard. So yeah. So it's nasty. And I'm always surprised. Now, when we study the cycles, we always take the highest probable outcome, right? That's what we do. So there's always, not always, but often another less probable cycle. And the dollar really, which the euro, is against, it has almost 60% of in that basket, 57% is the euro. So it is very important. And so the dollar, you always read in the newspapers, it's doom and gloom. It's, it's hold on, the BRICS are coming and so on.
Right.
I don't look at politics, but I just see that there's a higher probability that the long-term low was made in the dollar in 2021. And we're going to keep rising. So there's always, like, if the euro has expanded, by almost 6 years compared to its normal 16-year cycles, that it could be, coming down and making its low now, and therefore, could have a huge rally and the dollar needs to, go massively down. But that's not my bias, But there's always this side of the story. But anyhow,
I will say this, Ulrich, it is interesting how we had the primary cycle crest in the current cycle. It happened a week before Venus went retrograde, or maybe 2 weeks before. But, that was a big turning point for the currency markets, because that's when the dollar really started to accelerate.
Yep. You're completely right. Seldom is one thing there.
Yeah. And then you and I have talked about, and as far as I know, we were the first ones to discuss this with the dollar. Everybody talks about the boom bust cycle with Uranus going through the signs. But as Uranus has gone through Taurus, Bitcoin and crypto has gotten all the attention for its boom. But, there's been a boom in the dollar with the Uranus going through Taurus, which rules currencies. And it makes me believe, as we get closer to 2025, which overlaps with your 8-year, cycle low time band, is that what actually leads to a pullback in the dollar? And then, when Uranus starts going into Gemini, you get the bust portion of that, boom bust cycle in the currency world.
Well, if you look at the euro, it has, the 16-year cycle that started in January 2017 has actually gone bearish. It's quite of it means, like, we're only about 6.8 or 6.7 years into this cycle. Yeah. It means that, it has about 10 years to go towards, if you look at it from this cycle, let's say, method. And that's quite a scary thought. And, sometimes I wonder, well, maybe the euro will just not exist, maybe, it just disappears for 5 years, because it looks pretty ridiculous, that thought. But that's what the cycles are saying. And yes, you could have a big correction in the dollar, but as the euro will, keep crumbling, it's an 8-year low is big, and the rally will be big, yes, for sure. But still, it will be a bearish 8-year rally if you look at it from a the broad bunch.
Well, the joke I was making earlier this year was that, of course, the euro is going to rally into summer tourism season, and that was the high, and we've been coming down ever since. So maybe wait until next year.
Yeah, right on the dot. And I wanted to say a couple of things which I actually I heard a couple of them, and then I found another one. But when you look at the Jupiter, Uranus, and Taurus, the last one was on May 7th, 1941, right, in the war, right? And there was a couple of food inventions. You think Uranus is invention, Taurus is food, and
Yeah.
Jupiter is just whatever sweet. I mean, it's just expansion. And they came up on May 2nd. That's like 5 days before the conjunction with Cheerios. I
Really?
mean,
At the grain too. That's Taurus grains.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's pretty amazing.
Wow.
And on September 10, 1941, M&Ms were launched.
Really?
Yeah, and that is really like, it melts in your mouth, not in your hand, kind of, it was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
funny. And then I look back even to the previous one. It was 1858. And this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction was opposite to Mars. It was
Okay.
about 5 degrees, but it was still there. And they came up with a tin can opener. And Jupiter rules tin, and
Yeah.
a tool
Amazing.
is Mars, right? It severs, right? It opens. So it must have been quite of a revolution, I suppose, just to have that. The tin can was, I think, invented during the Napoleon Wars, so they could transport food and
Yeah.
things like that. But anyhow, those are interesting, just funny findings, kind of. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Do you have any final comments on the euro or any other markets? Anything else on your radar? I mean, you shared the Jupiter Uranus conjunction, the Jupiter Saturn square, but anything else that you're watching? If not, then that's good. That's
Well,
plenty.
the Bitcoin is always interesting.
Let's
Just
pull
as
that up real quick.
yeah, and it's in its 15th week. 10 months into its cycle,
Yeah.
and it made what looks to be half primary cycle low. 13 weeks into this primary, and yeah, I mean, just looking at it, not seeing it, I'll be quite bullish on it because you have that big low that happened, 10 months prior to that. So
Yeah.
I think there's still gas in this market, and before it comes down to make its intermediate term cycle low, which could be another 5 months. So we could rally for another 3 months. That's my thinking. If you just look at it, you'll be tend to, well, but it could take off from here. It is quite volatile, as we all know. But I don't know what is your view?
Well, you would think that Jupiter conjunct Uranus and Taurus would be bullish for Bitcoin, but my concern is with Ethereum, because Ethereum took out that low from June 15th. Bitcoin is not. Ethereum is much older in its intermediate term cycles. October will mark the 16-month from the low in June of 2022. Bitcoin bottomed a few months later. So yeah, for me, it's a question of whether we actually are in a newer 15-month cycle for Ethereum, and we could actually rally, like you said. But if we're going to fall a couple more months, then I think this is a newer primary cycle in Bitcoin, and we could fall into year end and then really rally at the beginning.
We will know in the next weeks anyhow, because
Yeah.
to get going if it's going to do anything. But otherwise, yes, it'll just fall off the cliff and keep going down for its intermediate term cycle low, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's exciting times. And this Jupiter Uranus could be a really important time to make money, in the stocks. It will be, short term in a way, but it'll be interesting,
Yeah.
Definitely. It doesn't
Perfect.
happen.
Well, Ulric, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I know all of our viewers appreciate it. I just have a couple of announcements for viewers. We still are in forecast season, so reserve your copy of Forecast 2024. Ulric is a featured analyst in that book, along with myself and some other MMTA graduates. So Ulric's going to cover the euro and currencies. I'll cover some other markets. And we just had the monthly ETF report published today. So feel free to pick up a copy of that. And you can find all of our work, reports, and courses at www.mmacycles.com. Ulric, aside from MMA, where can viewers find your work?
They can contact me on, actually it's called contact@aspegrén-analysis.com. You know, I work as a financial market consultant in Switzerland, and I'm very close to Geneva.
Great.
Where there's
okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you same time, same place next week.
Bye, Johnny. Thank you so much. And bye to the viewers.